Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, Cooking for the Family. Today I'm going to share with y'all making Sunday dinner. And so this is what I'm making for Sunday dinner. I'm going to be doing my mother's smothered potatoes and onions. So I'm going to share with you how to do that. And I got some other sides and fixins that we're going to make. So first I'm going to make just a basic baked chicken. And so these are the seasonings that I'm using for my baked chicken. I'm using this Nature Season blend, and I've used it before. It's one of my favorites and I like to use it, but you can use whatever seasoning that you have on hand in your home. And I'm also going to use some Lawry's. So I'm using some Lawry seasoning salt, and I'm doing chicken thighs with the bone in and the skin on. And the Nature Seasoning, by the way, it's a blend of pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and it also has a little bit of parsley in there as well. And for my chicken, I like to do a nice, I call it a sheen. I like to do a nice sheen of each of the seasonings that I'm using. I'm seasoning both sides of the chicken. I'm going to go ahead and wash my hands up real quick. I'm going to bake my chicken in my oven at 400 degrees or until it's nice and done and tender. We don't want to dry it out. And so what I do is I put also a little bit of water, and this is about 3/4 of a cup of water that I'm adding to my pan to make sure that my chicken stays nice and juicy. And we're putting the chicken in first because it's going to take the longest to go ahead and cook up. So once we have our chicken in, we're starting on our cabbage. I'm using a small head of cabbage. I'm gonna saute some nice cabbage. We're gonna put some onion in it, and also I have some bacon that we're also gonna put in it as well. And with my cabbage, I like to take off any leaves that seem too soft, or if it's starting to wilt, or if it's got a little browning on them. I definitely take those off. I cut the core, I cut the end off, and then I go ahead and I remove the core, and I'm going to cut around the core. For tonight's Sunday dinner, I'm cooking for 4, but you can double the ingredients, and I'll put a list of ingredients in the description box below. And you can definitely double the ingredients if you're going to be cooking for more than that, but tonight's dinner is going to be for 4. For my cabbage, I cut them in about a 2-inch round square. Then I like to separate them. I like to separate the different layers of the cabbage. I put them in a bowl of cold water, let them soak, and I'll rinse them a couple of times, and that's how I like to clean my layers. Our baked chicken is coming along. It's about halfway done. And now I'm going to get together our stuff for our smothered potatoes. Now, smothered potatoes, you can have them for breakfast or you can have them for dinner. And if you have never had smothered potatoes before, you are in for a treat. So with the smothered potatoes, we use a sweet onion. You want to cut your onion in half and leave the rings. You're going to have half a ring, like a half moon. We're going to have that. And I have about a half a cup of sliced sweet onions. Now, if you happen to not have a sweet onion, you can substitute it with a yellow onion. And also, when it comes to the potatoes, you want to slice your potatoes about 1/4 of an inch thick. No, not too much thicker than that. And the type of potato I'm using is a russet potato, and you can use a russet potato or either Idaho potato. So I went on and I rinsed my potatoes. I also drained them. And then after you rinse and you drain your potatoes, you want to go ahead and season them up, and I'm seasoning mine with some coarse kosher salt, and I'm using about 1.5 teaspoons of the coarse kosher salt. Now, if you're using regular table salt, you want to reduce that down to about 1 teaspoon. I toss the potatoes really well in the salt before I add the pepper because the salt will start to dissolve, and so using the coarse salt usually works a little bit better. It doesn't dissolve as quickly as the table salt. And then I add a little bit of the coarse black pepper, and this is about 1/4 of a teaspoon of the coarse black pepper. Now, once I've tossed the potatoes and they're nice and covered, then what I do is we're going to cover our potatoes in some flour. So I use just a regular freezer bag, and so we're going to toss our potatoes in a little bit of flour. This is 1 cup of regular all-purpose flour. Now, back in the day, what my mom would do is that the bowl that I was using, she would just put the flour like just right on top of the potatoes, toss the potatoes around like that. You can definitely do that, but I started putting them in the bag. I just found that that way I could coat them a little bit better. So once I've coated the potatoes, I have on the stove a pot of some vegetable oil. And you see how they're nice and coated now? I'm going to fry up my potatoes in batches, and make sure that your oil, and I'm using vegetable oil, is nice and hot. You want your potatoes to sizzle just like they're doing there when you add them to the pan. Also, with your potatoes, when you take them out of the bag of flour, shake them off. You want to shake off as much excess flour as possible, and go ahead and start putting your potatoes in. Now, if you are new to my channel, welcome in, and if you're a returner, welcome back. And I want to thank all my wonderful subscribers for their likes, their shares, their subscribes, and their good vibe comments on my channel. I love to share what I cook and bake for my family in my kitchen. And so if you are not subscribed yet and you're enjoying the content, I hope you consider subscribing. So I have my potatoes in. We have our chicken in our oven, y'all. Everything is coming along for our nice dinner. And we're only going to fry our potatoes until they're maybe about say 70% done, because we're going to do a second process of the smothering. And we want our potatoes to stay whole and not start to break down on us. So when you're frying your potatoes, we're not frying them until they're brown. We're just going to fry them until the coating sets on the potatoes, and they're going to be slightly crispy. They're just going to set up a little bit. And so you want to stay there with your potatoes, and I like to move them around, and you want to have enough oil in your pan that your potatoes are able to move around like that. And this is going to take maybe anywhere from about 5 to say up to 10 minutes. Also with the potatoes, my rule of thumb is that, because I'm using the nice large potatoes that are about as big as my fist, or you could say maybe as big as a softball, but like, longer. And so my rule of thumb is that I do 1 of those large potatoes per person. And so if you want to do 2 per person, you can definitely do that. But I usually do about 1 large potato per person is what I typically do. And so I kind of feel the potatoes, they're nice and firm still, and they're starting to get a little bit soft, but they're still a little bit firm as well. And so you want to drain them and take them out just like I'm doing. And when you take them out and you're using a slotted spoon like I'm doing, you want to take them out and put them inside of a bowl. You don't want to put them on a paper towel, because you may lose some of the coating on your potatoes. So when you take them out, put them inside of a bowl. I'm going to go ahead and finish up these next batches. And while I put in the next batch of our potatoes, we're going to get started on our cabbage. So for my cabbage, I'm going to be using 2 thick cut slices of bacon. And so I'm going to go ahead and saute the bacon. Now, if you don't want to use bacon, you can also just use 1 tablespoon of olive oil. You can use that, and then just go ahead, and once your olive oil is warm, it's nice and hot actually, then you can go ahead and add in the onion. Now, I like to use bacon, and that's just personal preference, but you definitely don't have to. So our last batch of potatoes is out. And so once our last batch of potatoes comes out, what I do is I drain off the oil. I leave about 2 tablespoons of the oil, and then I add those slices of the sweet onion that we had. We're going to saute this just for a few minutes, just until it starts to get slightly soft. So just go ahead and saute your onion just like I'm doing. Now, once I saute my onion and my onion starts to get slightly soft, maybe even just a touch brown, then we add the potatoes that we had in our bowl. We add our potatoes in. Move your potatoes around just like I'm doing. You don't want to fool with your potatoes too much, because you don't want to break them up. My bacon for my cabbage is nice and crisp. I added in 1/3 cup of chopped sweet onion. I'm going to saute that. I'm going to let this just get nice and soft while my onion is getting soft. I'm going to finish working on my potatoes. I'm going to go ahead and add in some chicken stock. Now, you can use either chicken stock or either chicken broth. And with that, you want to add about 1 cup. So you're going to do anywhere from about 1/2 cup up to 1 cup, 1.5 cups, depending on how many potatoes you're using. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're going to cover your potatoes until they are slightly covered, just slightly covered, with either your chicken stock or chicken broth. So with my 4 potatoes, I'm going to end up using about 1.5 cups. It's not exact. You want to eyeball it, because you want to put just enough to slightly cover the potatoes. Then what I do is I put the top on, and we're going to let this simmer for about 5 minutes. So our potatoes have been simmering. Our potatoes are nice and tender. Our onions are nice and tender. And a beautiful smothered gravy has been created on our potatoes. Now let's go ahead and finish up our cabbage for our dinner. Our chicken is just about ready to come out of the oven. I'm going to also put in some nice cornbread to go with dinner tonight. With the cabbage, I'm going to add in a little bit at a time. I'm going to let the cabbage kind of cook down so that way we can get all our cabbage in our one pot. Well, our cabbage has cooked down some. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of stir it up a little bit, mix the cabbage around, kind of poke it down some as well, and then that way we can go ahead and add the rest of the cabbage that we had chopped up. We're going to go ahead and add that because we want to use all of our cabbage and put it all in our pot. And I also like to add a little bit of the chicken stock as well. And you can use the stock or the broth. And I put in just about a cup that I like to add. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the top on, let this simmer for several more minutes until my cabbage gets nice and soft. So our cabbage has reduced down. It is nice and soft, and it is right at that spot that I like. I like it a little bit soft and still like slightly crisp as well. I just kind of move everything around, just mix it around. Got the bacon in there and the onion. And if you want to, you can also add some more seasoning to it if you like. Well, I have gone on and I've made this cornbread. This is the cornbread, the Dolly Parton cornbread. I've never tried it before, and so I baked it up. I followed the box directions, and it's looking really good. So I fixed this up a plate, and this is our Sunday dinner. We have our smothered potatoes and onions. We have our wonderful sauteed cabbage that we did. We've got that cornbread, and if you like to make cornbread from scratch, I'll put a link in the description box of how I have my cornbread from scratch, which is my mom's cornbread scratch recipe. Well, let's go ahead. I'm going to give y'all a bite. I'm going to let y'all have the first bite. This is the smothered potatoes and onions. Go ahead and take your bite. Now I'm going to take my bite and see how we did. Oh my goodness. These are so good. These smothered potatoes and onions are so good. Next, let's try some of our cabbage. Oh, our cabbage came out good. And this cornbread, it looks nice and moist. Let's see how this cornbread is. Let's see how it compares to my mom's scratch cornbread. It's not bad. It's pretty good. It's not like mom's, but it's actually pretty good. Well, let's go ahead and try our baked chicken. Our baked chicken is looking good. Did you take a bite? Go ahead and take your bite. I'm going to take my bite. Baked chicken is nice. It's tender. It came out nice and moist. I had to have a second bite, y'all. And this is our nice baked chicken. Well, that is it for me today. I hope you enjoyed spending time with me in my kitchen, making Sunday dinner. My family is behind me at the stove. They are putting their plates together. It is time to sit down as a family and enjoy this meal. Well, I hope you give these recipes a try. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I invite you to hit that subscribe button. It's free. If you like this video and appreciate the content, don't forget to show it some love, give it a thumbs up, and click share. And share this video with a friend or family. And don't forget to click that notification bell so you can come back and visit me again in my kitchen. And remember, it's always good when Dyvonne is cooking for the family. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.